Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things and welcome to another day of Vlogmas. Today I'm going to be doing for you my December TBR. I feel like I've got into the habit now of doing TBRs, although in general I would say that's not something I aim to do every month because October was Victober and November was non-fiction November, and there are a couple of readathons I want to take part in going on in December. I thought I would do another TBR this month and tell you about the books that I'm planning to read in December. I have an overly ambitious TBR for this month, as I do for pretty much every month. Even when I'm not posting them on my YouTube channel, I tend to make a little TBR pile for myself, and they're always more than I can read in 1 month. Especially because, as a lot of you know, I recently started a new job and I now work in fiction. So every month from now on, there will be a few books that I read in a month, which I'm not allowed to talk to you about because they're not published yet. For example, today is the 4th of December when I'm filming this. I have already finished 2 novels this month, but neither of them I can tell you about because they're both unpublished. I haven't quite worked out yet what the balance will be and how much of my reading time that will end up taking up. I will still get lots of books read that I can talk to you about, but maybe not so many as before. So that definitely means that my TBR is overly ambitious. However, I do in general tend to get quite a lot of reading done over the Christmas period, and I will be doing a bit of like travelling up and down the country to spend some of the Christmas period with my family and some with Nick's. So in that sense, maybe I will get quite a lot of reading done. And quite a lot of the books I have on my TBR are quite short or quite quick reads. So we're gonna see how it goes. Basically, there are 2 readathons going on in December that I would really like to take part in. But I'd kind of forgotten that either of them were happening until quite recently, until about a week ago. And there were a few other books as well that I was planning to read in December. So hopefully I will get to some from each readathon and some random other books that I want to read as well. So the first readathon taking place in December that I would like to take part in is the Cloak and Dagger Christmas readathon. This is a readathon based all around mysteries, and it's hosted by Kate Howe, Kate from the novel Nomad, Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures, and Carolyn's Reading Rambles. I will link those ladies' 4 channels down below. They're all absolutely brilliant. I really love all of their channels. Now, I really like mysteries, but I don't read that many, not nearly as many as I would like to, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to pick up a few more mysteries and continue on with a few authors that I have enjoyed in the past or I'm interested in. There are 4 prompts for the Cloak and Dagger Christmas readathon. First prompt is Sugar and Spice, so I thought I would go for this book, which is Arsenic for Tea by Robin Stevens, because the traditional nursery rhyme says that little girls are made of sugar and spice and all things nice. And this mystery series follows 2 little girls who are I think about maybe 12, 13 at boarding school together in the 1930s, one of whom is from Hong Kong and the other whom is from England, but the boarding school is in England. I read the first book in this series, Murder Most Unladylike, quite a few years ago now, and I loved it, and I just haven't picked up the mystery series since. It is a middle grade mystery series, and the first one was just delightful. It was really, really fun, really entertaining, and just such a joy to read. So I'm really, really excited to read on with this series, and I luckily found this in my library after raiding the children's section there, and I'm really, really looking forward to this one. As it is a middle grade book, I think it shouldn't take me too long to read, and yeah, I think this will be really good fun. The next prompt is Summer and Winter. Now, I do have 2 mystery books for this, but I feel like one of them, the longer one, I'm probably not going to get through, so I'll talk about that first. For the summer half of this prompt, I have The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. This, I think, is like a mystery, but also other things are going on, but it definitely has some mystery elements in, and this was very big on BookTube a couple of years ago. It's set in 1976 in a really, really hot summer, and it follows 2 10-year-old girls trying to find out what's happened to their neighbour who has gone missing. It's quite a bit longer than some of the other things on my TBR for this month, so I'm not sure that I will be getting to this, but I have it at the library. I've been meaning to read it for a long time, and if I don't manage to get to it this month, I'm sure I will check it out from the library again. And then for the winter half of this prompt, another thing I picked up from the library, I have The Mistletoe Murders by P.D. James. This is a little collection of murder mystery short stories. I think there are 4 or 5 of them in here, and they all take place, or at least some of them take place, around the Christmas season. So I think that'll be quite a fun thing to read at this time of year. I've only read one thing by P.D. James before, and that was Death Comes to Pemberley, which I didn't love, but I'm very aware that the reasons why I didn't love Death Comes to Pemberley was because I felt it was a bad Pride and Prejudice retelling or sequel, rather than because I thought it was a bad Regency mystery. And actually, if you had changed all the characters' names and there'd been no relation to Pride and Prejudice, I probably would have really enjoyed it, but I didn't feel that the characters in Death Comes to Pemberley were at all true to the characters in Pride and Prejudice, so that really put me off. However, I did actually really enjoy her writing, so I've been meaning for a while to kind of come back and read something else by her, and this sounds really interesting. I know Kate Howe also recommends this one as well, so hopefully this will be a fun Christmas read and pretty short as well. The next prompt is Old and New, and for this I thought I would pick up a Golden Age mystery and pick up another Agatha Christie because I do really love her work. works. So for this I'm hoping to pick up Murder at the Vicarage, which is the first Miss Marple book. I reserved Murder at the Vicarage from my local library, but what I failed to discover until after I had gone to pick up the book was that rather than reserving a regular copy of Murder at the Vicarage, I had reserved an abridged and simplified version of Murder at the Vicarage for people learning English as a second language, which obviously is not what I want to read. So I'm trying to get hold of another copy from the library or download a ebook from my library's ebook store, but I haven't quite worked out how to get ebooks from my library's ebook store onto my Kindle, or whether or not I can, or whether I might have to read it on my phone. I'm going to try and read Murder at the Vicarage. If not, I might pick up another Agatha Christie, whichever I can get at the library. Probably a Miss Marple. I really want to read a Miss Marple, really, because I haven't read very many Miss Marple stories at all. But hopefully I will be reading some kind of Agatha Christie this month as well. Then for the prompt of Home and Abroad, I thought I would pick up this. This is Last Tango in Aberystwyth by Malcolm Price. I read the first book in this series ages and ages ago and quite enjoyed it, but I just never carried on with the series, although I have a few other books. I've chosen this for the Home and Abroad one because Aberystwyth is in Wales, so it's in, like, the UK. But it's not in the bit of the UK that I live in. They're slightly weird books. It's like an alternative reality version of Aberystwyth, which is not quite our world. Hopefully going to try and pick this up this month, though this is lower down on the priority list. Then the other readathon going on in December is the Christmas Classics-a-thon, which is hosted by Lucy the Reader, which of course, as someone who enjoys classics, I really wanted to join in with. And again, there are 4 prompts for this. The first is just a free choice, pick up whatever classic you like. So for this, I thought I would count my next Anthony Powell reads, which I'm listening to on audiobook. This is his series, A Dance to the Music of Time, that I'm currently hosting a read-along for. So I'm halfway through The Military Philosophers at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. This is the book we were supposed to read in November, and then I also have on my list for this month the book we're supposed to read in December, which is called, this is the best title of a book ever, Books Do Furnish a Room. Yes, they do. Another of the prompts for the Christmas Classics-a-thon is to read a classic in translation. Well, I'm currently reading War and Peace, which I am about nearly halfway through, but not quite halfway through. I don't think I'm actually going to finish War and Peace in 2018. I think I'm going to carry it on and finish it off in January of 2019. I'm really enjoying it so far, but it's quite slow going in some places, and it's a very big book, and I want to read lots of other stuff as well. But I will be carrying on reading War and Peace in the month of December, so that's definitely one that I would count for my Christmas Classics-a-thon. Another of the challenges is to read a children's classic, so I am not sure whether or not I'm going to manage to do this challenge. I have reserved at the library a copy of The Secret Garden, which I've been meaning to reread for ages. The Secret Garden was one of my favourite books as a child. I had it on audiobook and I used to listen to it all the time, and it's one that I've been meaning to reread for a while, especially because in Victober I made a video about the presentations of disability and deformity within Victorian literature, which I'll link down below, and that has made me really interested in looking at The Secret Garden again. The Secret Garden is a bit later, it's an Edwardian novel, but one of the main characters has a disability, and I'm quite curious to read The Secret Garden again, knowing a bit more about 19th century and early 20th century presentations of disability, because I think I'd find it really, really interesting. However, I've got a lot on my TBR for this month, so we'll see whether or not I get to it. Then, the final prompt for Lucy's Christmas Classics-a-thon is to read a Christmas classic. Now, I have something very exciting to show you. This may not look very exciting, nor very Christmassy, but I assure you it is. This is a collected edition of Christmas stories from household words conducted by Charles Dickens from 1850 to 1858. So, if you don't know, Charles Dickens ran a magazine, a literary journal called Household Words between 1850 and 1858, I believe. And in those years, every year that he was running it, there was a Christmas special edition full of Christmassy short stories. And this is a collection of all of them. It's not laid out, it's literally scanned in. So, I mean, I don't know how well you can see on the camera, but it's all as it was laid out originally, which is really, really fun, and it's got each year. One thing I find really weird though, which I was very surprised by, is that there aren't any bylines. Some of these stories are by Charles Dickens, some of them are by other people, but it doesn't tell you which ones are by who. So I'm gonna have to like Google every single story I read to find out actually which Victorian writer wrote it. For some of them I might not even be able to find out, I don't know, like there's no key or anything in this book, it's literally just photocopies, scans of the original magazine. But for example, I was flicking through and I spotted an Elizabeth Gaskell story in here that I know, but it doesn't say anywhere that it's by Elizabeth Gaskell, so I'm gonna have fun researching this, I think. So, I don't think I'm gonna read this entire book in December. In fact, what I think I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna read the Christmas edition of 1850. And then next year I'm going to read the Christmas edition from 1851. And then the next year I can read 1852. And then I can read like a different special Christmas edition of Household Words each year for like the next 9 years. I mean, I like really enjoy them and kind of want to read on, but actually I think it'd be quite a fun little project, and hopefully I'll make a video about it discussing the stories, and then I can kind of do that like on a yearly basis. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm very excited about this. It's quite hard to get my hands on, and I think it should be really interesting and quite a different Christmassy classic read. So those are the 2 readathons that I'm going to be doing in December, but I do have quite a few other things that are on my list potentially for this month. I feel like I haven't read that much contemporary fiction in the last 2 months because I did Victober in October, and then November was non-fiction November. I've only read like 1 contemporary novel in the last 2 months, and that's making me sad. So I have some more contemporary novels on this list. First we have The Invisible Circus by Jennifer Egan, which I have in fact already started reading and I'm loving so far. Jennifer Egan is one of my favourite modern authors. I love her work so much, and this looks set to be brilliant. This follows the story of a woman called Phoebe. Her sister Faith committed suicide when Faith was 17 and Phoebe was 10, and this book looks at Phoebe when she's 18, looking back on her life before and after her sister's suicide, and kind of trying to track exactly what happened to her and whether or not it really was suicide. It reminds me quite a lot so far of Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, which I read in November and loved, and I'm just really looking forward to getting further into this. I love Jennifer Egan's writing so much. She's brilliant, and I'm very excited. I have a feeling this may end up being one of my favourites of the year. I then have When All Is Said by Anne Griffin. I would really like to get to this in December, but if I don't, I will read it in the beginning of January. This is a proof copy which I was very kindly sent by Scepter, who are the publisher, and the book itself is coming out towards the end of January, so I would like to read it before it comes out, though whether or not that will be by the end of December or just by the end of January, I'm not sure. However, I'm very excited to read this one. It tells the story of an elderly man looking back on the course of his life, and one reason why I'm especially excited to read this is because Anne Griffin, the writer, is represented by the same literary agent as me, Louise Buckley, and I know I have really similar taste to Louise, so I feel like this is going to be a book that I'm probably really going to love. So very excited for this one. I then have another book which I was kindly sent by the publisher, although this one is already published. It actually came out all the way back in September. This is Mrs. Gaskell and Me by Nell Stevens. Now I wonder if you can guess why I wanted to read this book. It is a novel which is half told from the perspective of a contemporary woman kind of struggling to get her life together, and half her looking back at Elizabeth Gaskell's life, which just sounds wonderful because, as you know, Elizabeth Gaskell is my second favourite author, sometimes tied with Jane Austen, sometimes not tied. I'm very excited to read this. I think this could be really interesting. I'm just really excited. I think it'll be really interesting and quite a different read. Then finally, on the contemporary novel front, I have this. This is Shelter by Sarah Franklin. So this book is published by Zaffa, which is Now Where I Work. So this is one that I'm reading for work in a way, but it has already been published. I'm just trying to like catch up on the backlist and familiarise myself with the commercial women's fiction list, which I am working on at Zaffa. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is a book set in the Second World War, and it focuses on 2 main characters, one of whom is working as a lumberjill, so a female lumberjack, of which there were several during the Second World War. The other central character is an Italian prisoner of war. So this just sounds absolutely fascinating, and one that has been on my radar from before I started working at Zaffa as well. I still haven't worked out exactly how I'm gonna do things when I am reviewing books that are published by the publisher at which I work. I think I'm gonna not do any ratings on Goodreads for anything that is published by Zaffa, and I think when I include them in wrap-ups, which of course I'll only do if they're published books, I am probably just going to like tell you a bit about the story and what I like about it, but I won't do like, it won't be quite the same as the way I would review a book that isn't published by somewhere where I work. And also I won't ever do any individual reviews of books published by Zaffa, and I will never include them in like my top books of the year, etc. Even if they are my top books of the year, I'm not gonna like rate in any fashion any book that I have read that is published by Zaffa. But I do want to mention them on this channel because obviously I'm excited to be working at Zaffa and excited to tell you about all their books and things like that. And I'm just going to talk about them in a slightly different way to I would with a book that is kind of disassociated with me and is nothing to do with where I work. Basically that's a long-winded way of saying I'm looking forward to reading Shelter this month, and I will talk about it in my wrap-up, but possibly not quite in the same way that I will talk about books that are not published by Zaffa. Anyway, see what I meant when I said this was too many books to read in 1 month, definitely. However, I still have 2 left. One is quite a slim short story collection. This is Dot Dash by Jonathan Pinnock, which I've been meaning to read for ages. Jonathan is a great writer and someone I know in real life as well. We were on the same creative writing master's course several years ago, and I've read other works by him which I've really enjoyed. And this I'm sure I will like. I really enjoy his short stories, and the idea of the title Dot Dash is that it's like a really short story followed by a longer short story. This was my TBR jar pick for this month, so I would love like to read it, but if I don't manage to get to it with other things that are bigger priorities and readathon reads, then I will put it on into January and read it in January instead. And then finally I also have The Silk Roads by Peter Frankopan. Now this I am sure I will read and hopefully finish off in the month of December. I'm listening to this on audiobook. I started it in November. I'm about a third of the way through. It is a history book looking at the kind of history of the Persian Empire and its effect on the world. I'm finding it really interesting so far, but there's quite a lot of hours to go. I will do my best to finish it off by the end of December, by the end of the year, and we will see how that goes. There we have it. Those are the many books that I'm going to attempt to read in December. Definitely too many, but we'll see how it goes. Please let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books and if there's any you'd especially recommend me to start with. Also let me know if you are joining in with the Cloak and Dagger Christmas readathon or with Lucy's Christmas Classics-a-thon. And that is pretty much all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another Vlogmas video.